Bienvenidos. Daily Invocation Souls Check-in, brought to you by Souls Enterprise, your source of inspiration and information for healing, attainment, and liberation. This week we are invoking connection. So taking a moment to settle into this sacred space together and connect further with your own self.
Ing. Connection, yes, is something. Invoking is active. Invoking is not passive, just like connecting. Connecting, very, very active.
Connecting with each other across space and time whenever you are watching this sacred moment. So when we talk about connection with self and others and all of the elements, the kingdoms and the dimensions and beyond, we often get asked about barriers to connecting. Why is it that people don't want to go as deep as I want to go in conversation? Why is it that people, maybe in the dating world, for example, are still coming up as inauthentic? Why is it that even in spiritual circles, I find it difficult to really connect with new people? Why is it that some of my friendships are not as deep and connected as I would want them to be? On and on and on and on. And there are various barriers to connection. Today we'll talk about one of those, a very important one, and that is
self-concern. Huge barrier, potential huge barrier to connecting.
Mm-hmm. So self-concern is connected to conditioning, is one of the simplest ways to explain it. Self-concern is walking around and putting too much emphasis on how we might be coming across to others, or these things in our mind like, oh, is this too weird? Is what I said the wrong thing? Is it socially acceptable in this circle? It also can be compartmentalization. So we're one person at work, we're another person at an ecstatic dance event, on and on.
So two things about self-concern that come to mind. We're not going to invoke it, but
we're invoking connection.
We're invoking connection. Let's for a moment bring our awareness to self-concern, okay? Specifically, the energetics of it. When we're interacting, connecting with ourselves, others, work, partner, anything, where is our energy? Where is our attention? Are we really worried about saying the right thing, doing the right thing, right? So if you bring your awareness to that and think about self-concern for a moment, wow, like an energy barrier almost, versus actually connecting, openness, all the good gooey things.
Exactly.
So that's the first highlight. You want to say something before I do the second highlight?
I just want to say, well, just to reiterate of an energetic wall, an invisible wall. So it might not be at the extreme of social anxiety or play out like you won't even interact with people. That's oftentimes what we think of when we think of people who have a bit of a wall up and might be more reserved, or these words like introverted. But what we're talking about with self-concern is maybe it's not to that degree. It's trickier to catch, and yet it still is a barrier.
Okay. So the second thing about self-concern, wanted to take us off the hook a little bit. Krunadara mentioned conditionings, and those of us Americans especially, and Europeans of course, and sadly all over the world, America exporting successfully, is this rugged individualistic idea, just drilled into us from early. So I want to take away any blame or shame around self-concern and normalize it, because we've been taught to be independent and self-reliant, right? And strong, rugged, right? The exact opposite of what I judgmentally call the sane traditions and tribal living and communal, So I just want to bring some empathy in, because we were trained this way. And yes, it does take work. So that's why we shed the light on it, but definitely go gently, because a vast majority of us listening to this were really drilled in, instilled self-concern. So it is a process, it is practice, like much other things.
The other part of conditioning also at an extreme is that for those of us that are trauma survivors, of course, we're going to have these walls up for self-preservation and some kind of automatic protection that we know you're working really hard to work through, right? And so that's why we just wanted to shed light and give you a little bit of insight, maybe a little bit of motivation, things to think about next time you're out on a Zoom, in a hybrid situation, at a next gathering, etc. So just noticing, it all starts with awareness, right? Noticing when we have those walls up. Maybe you start to see patterns. Maybe, I know oftentimes kids think the beard is a little strange. And so that's a pattern. Prasad's aware that he might have to be even more gentle, more friendly, more forthcoming, lean into the children and talk to them in a different way, because we've seen kids get really freaked out with the beard. And around conditioning as well, back to the self-preservation, it happens very automatically. So yes, thank you for saying to approach it and approach yourself with some gentleness, just noticing the patterns of conditioning that exist. And noticing the other thing about conditioning is that we've also been taught from a very early age. There's a couple of toddlers here on the property, so maybe that's why I'm thinking of kids quite a bit, how we're supposed to act in particular situations, right? And so when we, of course, I'm going to talk about ecstatic dance, but you can talk about anything else. When I went to my first ecstatic dance, I had been doing that in my living room while no one was watching, but I had never been able to share that with people. I didn't know that this space existed. It existed in my mind and in my heart based on that tribal connection that I have, but I had never witnessed it with other people where we're connecting, and some people would, holler out animal sounds in the middle of a dance. Some people aren't even dancing at all, or they're moving completely against the rhythm, if you will. And so for me, it was fascinating to finally be in this totally accepting kind of world where any expression was celebrated, not just welcome or tolerated. It was actually celebrated, and that's everything we're about.
And one last point, just to be clear, I hope it doesn't need to be stated, but I will state it just for the record. Self-concern isn't bad. We're not polarizing. It's not duality. It's not, anything wrong. Obviously we have to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves. So yes, self-concern is not bad. Just like many things along the spiritual path. And summation of today, we just practice, experiment. Bring your awareness in and see, how self-concerned am I? Could I be less? Is it intelligent to be self-concerned right now? Plenty of situations it is, So just bringing the awareness and practicing.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
And
we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we have Breathwork Saturday. So if you want to work through anything that does come up while you're paying attention to self-concern this week, then that is a fantastic way to do it non-verbally and very powerfully. And we have a special guest this month. So see you soon. Adios.